Good morning, and thank you for being here with me today. Won't you please become focused with me as we come before God our Father and we ask that He allows me to open my mouth and He bring utterance, that He lets the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in His sight, that He fills me as an empty pitcher, standing before a fresh flowing fountain, that He sends down fresh manna from heaven, designed with us in mind, designed to stir up that gift of thios within us and keep us moving up the highway towards our highest good. And for that this morning, we say thank you. We are grateful this morning. Today is the third Sunday of February. The apostle is John. The color is pink. The idea is love. And the faculty of the body is the heart. According to Webster's definition, love is unselfish, loyal, and benevolent. It's a concern of the good for another. It's the Father's concern of God for man. It's brotherly concern for others. It's a person's adoration of God. A God or personification of love. A score of 0, holding one's opponent scoreless in tennis. Won't you please repeat after me as we say the affirmation for this month? The Christ faculty of love is quickened in me. The power of God's transforming love moves in me and through me. This agape love enables me to view every situation in love, to see the positive and the good in everyone and in everything, to see the good in all situations. Love is all I send, and love is all I shall receive. Because I am one with God, I am one with love. I am blessed. I am blessed. I know that I am blessed. And so it is. Today we're going to be talking about the outworking of love. We're going to find this scripture in 1 John in the 3rd chapter. And I just want you to be reminded in that first verse, it says, "Behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God." What manner of love has He put upon us that we should be referred to as the sons of God? We are His and He is ours. He loves us with a love that is unconditional. I want you to know that He loves you right where you are, no matter where you are. When He created us in His image and in His likeness, and He blew the breath of life into us, that's when we became His sons. That's when He made us in His image and in His likeness. That's when He showed how much He loved us. I want you to know that we are the sons of God. And even though it may not appear that way in everyone's life right now, I want you to be confident in the fact that God will show up and He will appear to you in your life, and you will see Him as He is. You will be one with Him and He will be one with you. You know, every man was created by God. Consequently, we all have the Spirit of Him dwelling within us. If you would look at the first verse, it says, "Whosoever committeth sin transgresses against the law. For sin is the transgression of the law." So that brings us to say, just what is the law? You know what the law is. You know, first of all, transgression means an infringement or violation of the law or of a command or of a duty. Now, remember, Jesus came and He gave us 2 commandments. That is the law. We've been dealing a lot with these 2 commandments because they're both rooted in love, and this is the month of love. So the first one, as you know, is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. And the second one is to love your neighbor as yourself. So let's not remember to love your neighbor as yourself. And that means you're loving you too. Okay? Sin is the transgression of this law. And sin, basically, an acronym that I use for sin, is self-inflicted nonsense. It's stuff that you inflict upon yourself, because what is sin for me may not necessarily be sin for you. But when you are not obeying these 2 commandments, you're sinning. And so these are things, because God has given us freedom of choice, the choices we make sometimes fall in line with sometimes do not fall in line with the 2 commandments, and consequently are sin. So it also says in the 6th verse that whosoever abideth in him sinneth not, and whosoever sinneth has not seen him, neither known him. When you abide in him, you sinneth not. What does that mean? That means when you are reconnected with your thios, when you are nurturing that relationship between you and God, when you are aligned with his will, you sinneth not. Why? Because when you are reconnected, you can hear his voice. You can envision his will for you. You know what to do if you but listen. He will guide you. He will direct you. He will protect you. When you listen and obey. Remember, obedience is better than sacrifice. When you obey to the Lord's voice that you hear in your inner ear, that you feel in your heart, that you are connected with, when you are nurturing that relationship between you and your God, you will not sin if you obey, because you'll be guided the right way. But if you don't listen, if you are not in tune, then you will sin, because you will have self-inflicted nonsense. As humans, we tend to be a little bit judgmental of outward appearances of things, and even though the Bible tells us to judge ye not, we still do it. If you know people who don't go to church, subconsciously you're thinking, he might be a bad person. Or if they don't walk around with the Bible tucked under their arms all the time, well, he's not really a real saint. Or if you hear people using swear words, oh, he cussed like a sailor, can't be a Christian. Or if you take a drink, oh, he's a drinker, it's a sin to drink. Well, that's just simply not true. First of all, the Bible tells you to judge ye not. Secondly, you don't know the heart of man. Only God knows the heart of man, and only God can stand in judgment. So you should not be deceived. It says in the 7th verse, little children, let no man deceive you. He that doth righteousness is righteous, even as he is righteous. So I could be a drinker, but I know a lot of alcoholics who are better Christians than some of the people who call themselves Christians. Why? Because they are good people. They give from their heart, and they are compassionate. They love their neighbors, and they are upholding the 2 commandments. Just because I drink does not mean that I don't love the Lord. Just because I use a swear word does not mean that I don't love the Lord and that I do not love my neighbors as myself. So let's try not to be judgmental of each other, because if I am doing righteousness, it's not your call, it's God's call. And I know my heart, and God knows my heart, and we know that I am upholding the 2 commandments that he gave us. So it is not your place to judge me for what I do. It's important that you notice in the 9th verse, it says, whosoever is born of God does not commit sin, for his seed remaineth in him, and he cannot sin because he is born of God. In layman terms, that's your reconnection of your thios to God. That's what a lot of people would say are born again Christians, saved and set aside, sanctified, born again, reconnected, reunited. And you do not sin because you are in tune with your thios. You are aligned with God's will. You are listening to what he has to say. And you are obeying what he says. When you obey God and you are aligned with his will, you are not sinning. You are walking in his will. It is not a sin. It's when you step aside from that, when you don't listen or when you don't obey, it is then when you are committing the biggest sin. I want you to know in the 10th verse it says, "In this children of God are manifest, and the children of the devil, whosoever doth not righteousness is not of God, neither he that loveth not his brother." Let's be clear about manifest. You know, when it says in this children of God are manifested, and the Bible tells us they will know you are Christians by your love. This tells us when you are keeping his 2 commandments, loving him and loving your neighbor, they will know you are Christians because it will be manifest. Manifest by definition means to be clear or obvious to the eye or the mind. To be on display, to show. Your actions will show that you are a Christian. For this is the message you heard from the beginning, that you should love one another. So as I conclude, I want you to know that we ought to love one another. Let's just focus on those 2 commandments this month. They are both rooted in love. Love the Lord your God with all your mind, your heart, and your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Remember, yourself is part of that. Love you too. Amen. My prayer for you, as always, is that you remain Christ-centered and you continue to be blessed.